Well, good Thursday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get over and let's wake up those football gods. How are you guys doing today? How you doing? It is Thirsty Thursday, and I hope that you guys have had a great night. Hopefully, my buddy D2 Stu, a.k.a. Mr. Wolf, is doing better this morning. He is in the hospital. He got a blood transfusion last night as they try and figure out what's going on with him. Stu, you are definitely on our mind. Also on our mind is today, 2 weeks, 14 days from today, the Dallas Cowboys will be on the clock for the draft. I mean, let's face it. It's time to build that roster. Yesterday was an interesting thing because, I don't remember too many other teams that say that they've got a big announcement in things, and it's about making more money. I just don't see that. Although, no, there are big announcements with the Washington Commanders, from Congress that basically say that they are like the mafia, You understand that they are, in fact, Dan Snyder.
I'm the motherfucking fucking one who calls the shots. And you better pay me the respect that I gave your brother, or we're gonna have a problem. A bad one. Now get the fuck out of here.
Dan Snyder is definitely running it like a mafia. We're trying to run a business here. That is Dan Snyder's M.O., but, at least the Cowboys are trying to make their money legitimately by creating cryptocurrency. If the Dallas Cowboys didn't have enough money already, hey, let's just have our own imaginary money. I'm sure that the loyal subjects will buy into that. But yesterday was interesting because there was a lot of great things that were actually talked about with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the gift that always keeps giving because his sound bites are like, none other than, nobody else has sound bites like Jerry Jones. He went on talking about he's glad he got Dak Prescott under contract as opposed to seeing what like Deshaun Watson just got and some of the other players and things and thinking, you know what, I saved some of that money so I can get some more of that cryptocurrency on Dak Prescott. But the Cowboys do business differently than anybody else. I don't know that I've heard any other team flat out come out and say, we'd like to trade up. The best way to do business is in secret. Don't let the competition know exactly what you're doing. Keep it a mystery. Make them think you're doing something else. Or maybe this is just the grand bluff by Jerry Jones to make them think that there's really a player that they want. So that way they get the one that they do want. That they think, Cowboys don't want this guy, kind of like what happened with CeeDee Lamb. The Eagles thought they don't want CeeDee Lamb, and here it is, the Cowboys draft CeeDee Lamb. So the question is, do the Cowboys actually really want to move up, and who would be worthwhile to move up for? I'm not sure that moving up is the best idea. Now, again, I'm just a guy with a day job and a voodoo doll, but I look at the Cowboys having needs at guard, center, swing tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, and defensive line. That's 6 positions. Now, you've got 7 draft picks. If we're talking about trying to fill all those positions, if you're moving up, it's going to cost you 2 picks minimum. That brings you down to 5. You would have to get a player that's really going to be worth 2 players. And the hard thing about the draft is it's hard to get instant impact guys that can start. And maybe that's what the Cowboys are looking at, saying if we pool our resources, we can get a Micah Parsons type impact. Because the reality is we got some great players that we expect to do well this year, but you only really had one lights out starter, and that's Micah. OC was great. Played well. You expect him to grow on. Goldston, he played pretty good. Boss Man Fat and Kevin Joseph. You look at that and say, hopefully they'll be able to take another step. But as far as instant impact last year, you didn't get that. And the way I always like to look at a draft is you want to have a day one starter that makes your team better. We got that in Micah Parsons last year, without a doubt. Step two is you want to get a second starter out of there. If you can get a second starter that can play valuable time for your team, you're doing great. If you can get some role players out of there and a special team standout, if you can do that, then you've had a fantastic draft. But unfortunately, we've got like 6 places we need guys right now. Now, I'm actually going to be hitting the road here. I'm going to be on the road today, so I'm trying to get out early. But let's listen to NFL Live and what their thoughts on the Cowboys trading up and how far they would.
He's just like so nonchalant about it. Mel, in your latest mock, you had the Cowboys taking defensive end Arnold Ebiketie with the 24th overall pick. Who could the Cowboys be trading up for, though? How high you think they need to get?
I love Ebiketie. Yeah, they got Micah Parsons out of Penn State, and Ebiketie is the most underrated defensive player in this draft, in my opinion, Laura. So if they get him where they are, be happy. If you want to move up, maybe Jermaine Johnson II, who had a phenomenal year with the Seminoles coming over from Georgia, was also their second leading tackler in addition to 11.5 sacks. And if you want to go up for a receiver, maybe Jameson Williams coming off the ACL. But you talk about a guy like Ebiketie, if he's there where they're picking, and you got a guy coming off the edge with his kind of talent, what he did at Temple, what he did at Penn State, I think that would be a heck of a choice for the Dallas Cowboys. Like I say, on the heels of the Nittany Lion last year with Parsons, another Nittany Lion, be it for 1 year, it was a heck of a year for Ebiketie.
Could you imagine Jameson Williams with that offense?
Like, wait, and CeeDee Lamb, and oh my goodness.
Here's the interesting thing for me when I hear Jerry Jones speak. Number one, you're not moving up just for a need. You're moving up for a want, right, Mel? Like, if you have needs as the Dallas Cowboys that you could probably fill more than likely at 24. So when I hear Jerry say that, he's like, he wants to go get something that is a difference maker. And my mind immediately went to the wide receiver spot. And I don't know if it's Jameson Williams to move up to the top 10. Is it Garrett Wilson to the top 5 to go get him? But I also think, are they trying to find like a Micah Parsons 2.0? Are they going to be so froggy where they try to jump up and get Kayvon Thibodeau? Could you imagine Thibodeau and that defensive end power that he could play with in that defensive line? Karlaftis out of Purdue, the big defensive end. That's the fascinating thing for me is you are not moving up just for a good player. You are moving up to go get somebody as a difference maker, a Kyle Hamilton, a Thibodeau, a Johnson, Devin Lloyd from Utah. That's where I look at for the Cowboys. If they get Jameson Williams, my goodness, because I think a little bit is the NFC. They realize the conference isn't strong.
I don't know if they move up. It all depends where they move to, right? To go from 24, you know this, Mel, all the way up to the top 10 is going to cost them a haul for the future. And I don't know that they're willing to risk that, especially on a guy like Jameson Williams, who may not be able to play. I know we're forecasting the middle of the season and all those sort of things, but what difference will he really make for them when they got to win right now? I think they're looking at a cornerback spot. I'm thinking they're looking at maybe like a Sauce out of Cincinnati. If you go back and you look at Dan Quinn and what he was able to do in Seattle when he had those bookend corners, I think that's something that probably plays, because they've been trying to get 2 corners in Dallas for a very, very long time.
Mel, I'll ask Mel a question off that, Key, because I agree, like Sauce Gardner, but he's not falling far, correct, Mel? Like you're going to have to go up into that top 5 to go get him, correct?
A lot to unwrap on what you guys were talking about. Let's go to Derek Stingley Jr. If you see him sliding down to that 12 spot, and you know Minnesota could be targeting the former LSU Bayou Bengal, you go up and get Derek Stingley Jr. He would have been, had he been healthy this year, he would have been maybe the #1 player in this draft. Okay, certainly the #1 corner right there with Sauce. Then you think about Jameson Williams. Great to see a kid, ACL national title game, now being one of the most talked about players in this draft. To the point about Jameson, he will be there for the stretch run. October, November, when you're getting ready for the playoffs, maybe gearing up for a Super Bowl run, Jameson will be able to help your football team. To the point about Key moving up. The Atlanta Falcons went from 27 to 6 to get Julio Jones. So it can happen where you can go way up there and get a receiver. Now, in that point of the draft, it would be Garrett Wilson more so than Drake London right now. Wilson projected to go 4 to 7. Drake London in that 10 spot. So if you want to go way up, it's probably one of those 2 receivers. Chris Olave, Ohio State, would be more around pick 15 to go up there to get him.
Mel, what are you hearing in terms of from teams about Stingley's short window, right? He had freshman year, pretty much that's it. Outside of that, we really haven't seen a whole lot of football. What are teams saying about that?
Mm-hmm.
Teams that I talk to are saying, I think it's be quiet. Let's Stingley slide a little bit, and we'll go get them. And I think that's what they want to see. Nobody's going to tip their hand here, but I think privately, Derek Stingley is hot. I don't care what anybody says. People know what a lockdown player he was in 2019, the battles in practice with Jamar Chase that went about 50-50, and they know about the COVID year, and they know about the injury. If the medical staff feels like he's fine coming off that injury.
So he was good 3 years ago.
Derek Stingley Jr. at pick 12, are you kidding me? When he could have been the number one player in this draft, like former LSU Bayou Bengal Patrick Peterson was. To me, that's a guy to keep an eye on, Derek Stingley Jr. if he's about to move up to get.
It's such a steal, I think, if you can get Stingley Jr. at that point. One of the things that Mel just mentioned there is potentially the Cowboys targeting Garrett Wilson if they could get all the way up, similar to his reference to the Falcons going from 27 to 6. You'd have to get up pretty high. I mean, maybe in the top 5 even. That could be a little rich for Garrett Wilson, but do you like that?
I don't think it's rich for Garrett Wilson. Yeah. I'll be dead honest with you. I think the NFL is trending towards wide receiver being the second most important position. They're certainly being paid that way. If you told me the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to draft Garrett Wilson, I would be like, cool, because I think he's going to be Devontae Adams. I really do. And I don't think he's going to get past that top 6 or 7 world. Okay. The really fascinating point with me when it comes to the Cowboys is if you look at who's got pick number 5 and 7, that's within the division, and that's the New York Giants. So if the Cowboys are going to be overly aggressive and want to get ahead of a team like the Atlanta Falcons at 8 for Garrett Wilson, you got to be willing to trade within your division to go get him. But the interesting part, again, for me is they would be going to get a want rather than a need.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for watching.
That's the question. Are the Cowboys, this is one of those ones that you look at it and say, at 24, you can probably do a great player. You probably do a great player that's going to be a starter that's going to fill a hole. I don't know. Depends on how far the Cowboys are willing to go up. Me personally, I would love to get the lights out defensive tackle. That's the one thing that we have not concentrated on since the 90s for me. And, I know I'm old school, but I still believe that defenses win championships. And getting the best defensive linemen would make that defense so much better. If you get that guy that can really push that pocket, man, you're really going to see Micah Parsons really flourish. Could you imagine if you were to get somebody on the caliber of a Jordan Davis there in the middle at the one technique and then have Micah Parsons as the middle linebacker hitting that gap? Oh, my God. That would be freaking insane. There would be no stopping that. That would be, party at the quarterback. But we'll see what happens in 2 weeks. I'm going to hit the road, and we'll have some more thoughts. Jameson Williams to the Cowboys move up that far for a wide receiver. Ooh, I don't know, man. I don't know. But, he has a torn ACL and probably won't be ready for October. So that would say that's the Cowboys type of guy. I'm Mark Holmes, and, I got to hit the road. You know how we roll.
Here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report.
You did one hell of a job, and the only thing else I got to say is